Greetings, Southern Nevada, and welcome to Hope for Today. You're joining myself, Catherine Moldovan, with our co-host, Antoinette Davis. And today we're going to continue talking about balance as well as the power of the spoken word. And so today we want to begin with like last time we talked a little bit about how to be able to calm ourselves, Antoinette, and how to get centered. And we're going to continue with that. So I'd like for today for us to start our show with getting centered. And so if I could ask everybody at home to join Antoinette and just close your eyes and just allow yourself to be in the moment. And so go ahead, Antoinette, and close your eyes.
Yes.
Okay, and just be in the moment. And I'd like you just to notice your breath, breathing in and out. And notice your heartbeat. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it calm? Is it rhythmic? Where is your heartbeat? And as thoughts might start to flutter your mind, just push them off to the side and come back and focus on your breathing, on your breath, and on your heartbeat. Anything that's coming in that's an intrusive, stressful thought, just push it to the side. Allow each thought that comes that's negative just to float down the riverbed on a pedal, pushing it to the side, down the river. And continue to breathing in and out. All right, wonderful. Ding!
Yes.
All right, how was that, Antoinette?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Very peaceful. However, I'm really in a peaceful place today, and I'm thankful for that, Catherine. Yesterday we was talking about the show, and I went to bed, and I was like, Lord, what would you have us to talk about? What would you have us to say to your people? And I didn't have anything, so I went to bed, and I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning. And when I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning, what woke me up, I saw a figure on a mountain, a tall, tall mountain. And he had his hands stretched out. And I was like, Lord, what is that? And he was saying, come to me. Come to me. And then I saw lots of people. And they had their head down like this, and they was running the opposite direction. So it was kind of confusing because he was saying, come, but they were going the opposite way. And the Lord said, tell my people that I love them. That he's saying, come, but they're running. And he don't want us to run. He says to come to him. And the reason he says to come, because he accepts you as you are. He loves us like we are. So the word is to know that he loves us. And God's words and his thoughts toward us are not like we think. His thoughts, his ways is not like ours. And so as we hold on to the truth of knowing who God is and that his thoughts and his ways are not like ours, we could begin to receive ourselves like he received us. And so that was just really encouraging to me to just come to the Lord no matter what. I don't have to fix it first. I can just come.
As
Just
you are.
come.
You know what?
Yes.
And it doesn't matter, if you're dressed to the nine, if you've got
Right.
green hair, purple hair, black hair, if
Yes.
you're white, if you're black, if you're Latino, if you're Asian,
Yes.
if you're a believer, if you're not a believer. He sees you as you are, and it's your heart that he's after.
Right.
And
Yes.
I think so many times, like when you're talking about how you saw him on the mountain and the
Yes.
people were running away from him, sometimes it's because people carry some shame with them and they
Right.
feel that, God doesn't love them. And especially if they're walking in life to where they haven't experienced love. And there's so many people out there who haven't had the opportunity to experience pure, true love. And God's love is so powerful and so amazing that he can actually just take, if we just, like you said, come with open arms and extend yourself to say, hey, come into my life, fill my vessel, because we are vessels of an awesome God who really wants to be able to use us in ways that we never even felt or dreamed would be imaginable. And I think that what happens, Antoinette, is that they want to come and people want to be able to feel embraced, but they don't feel good about themselves. And I can remember a time when I had been in a car accident and I felt like God had abandoned me. And I was in so much pain. I had herniated disc, bulging disc. I had lesions on the brain. I was in a lot of suffering for several months. And I hadn't been, seeking God's face. I was mad. I was angry because I was in this situation. And so when I was going through that dark tunnel, God hadn't forgotten me, even though I wasn't seeking him. He was still walking with me. I didn't realize that footprint in the sand, was applying to my life. And one day I found myself sitting in my car just crying and thinking, wow, what am I to do? I have to have neck surgery and I could only go like this. I couldn't do this at all. And so what I ended up doing was just sitting there in the car crying. And my tears weren't getting me anywhere. I turned on the radio and I happened to turn on a particular song that reminded me of the church that I had used to attend, the International Church of Las Vegas and Vegas. And so I thought, oh, the pastor's wife does a service on Sunday, not on Sunday, on Thursday, a Bible study for women. So I made my way there. And that day changed my life because God reminded me in that Bible time, worship time, that he had my back and really gave me some revelation. And I actually received a healing that day, which was really powerful. But it reminded me of how with what you were talking about, how we sometimes think as humans in the flesh that God doesn't care about us because of the circumstances, if you will, of our life. And just because we go through trials and tribulations doesn't mean that he's forgotten us.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And a lot of times, you think of things just the opposite. Like you think you're going through something bad. What have I done so wrong? Or what have my parents did so wrong that I turned out this way? But actually, it's just the opposite. A lot of times, things happen in your life just how God intended for them to be. So what? So that he will get the glory out of your life, just like you are. And I love the scripture where the Lord says that I have chosen you. And he's chosen you for what? He declared that you're his witnesses. You're his witness. And the only way you can be his witness is that your life is giving him glory. Your life is giving him glory, what he brought you through, how he brought you out of it. And I think about when my son was born, he had laryngomalacia, if I'm pronouncing it the correct way. And what that is that tissue cover up the airway. And he would literally stop breathing for seconds at a time, turn blue. And so after multiple times at the hospital, they said that his heart had actually enlarged. And this was one of the times where my faith began to grow. I would quote the scriptures during this time, and I was living a Christian life, walking in the Lord and all of that. But I'm saying that when my faith truly was developed. And when we got to the hospital, they said, well, his heart is enlarged. And when the heart is enlarged, there's nothing they can do. So he's not going to make it. Now, my sister's son had the same thing, and he had passed by the time he turned a year. So that fear tried to creep in. But I heard a voice. I heard the Lord's voice, Catherine, and he told me that this sickness is not unto death. He said,
And
this
how old is
sickness-
Vance today?
25 years old.
That's right, girl. 25 years old.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. And so he said, this sickness is not unto death. And I began to speak that when he would stop breathing, when he would turn blue. And so I looked maybe a little off to others, but I knew I heard the Lord's voice. And so that's where I realized how powerful your words are.
Yes.
Okay? I didn't speak on what I saw. I learned to speak what God said.
That's
And he
right.
said that this sickness is not unto death. And so I will walk around and I will hold him up in the air. And I was like, Lord, you said this sickness is not unto death. And I believe you.
That's right.
Yes, I believe him. And so I wanted to share with you my statement of faith. And that is that God is who he say he is. It keeps me, Catherine. And I want to share with all of you that if you're facing a difficult time or sickness in your own body, sickness in your family, financial situation, maybe losing your home, just situations that you feel like your back is up against the wall and your faith need to kick in, I want to encourage you. And you begin to say, God is 5 steps. God is who he say he is. And then I say that I am who God says I am. And so you say that you are who God says you are. And God will do what he says he will do. God's word is alive and is activated in me.
That's right. It sure
That
is
is
alive.
powerful. Yes. Yes.
Alive and well.
Yes.
His spirit is within me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And so the power of our words, when you're experiencing situations in your life, think about how you're responding. Think about the words you're selecting. Your choice of words have a lot to do with the outcome.
And that's why today we're talking about the power of the spoken word. Because when we think about our words, and we can either breathe life or it can breathe death.
Yes.
And so I think that when we are kind of journeying, you know, through life's mazes, and when heartache comes upon us,
Yes.
it's really easy to speak negative, which brings death, because maybe we're insecure, maybe we're frightened, maybe we're fearful, maybe we just don't know, we're confused.
right.
And God is the author of faith. He's not the author of confusion.
That's right.
And so we just need to continue to turn it over.
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and break for commercial, and we look forward to joining you back momentarily. Thank you so much.
Hope Counseling Services, where healing begins. Do you suffer from depression, anxiety, trauma, or have you experienced a major life change and are having difficulty coping? Are you or a loved one struggling to get out of the bed, having mood swings or difficulty managing your anger? At Hope Counseling, we have a compassionate team of professionals who strive to help you overcome the challenges associated with these painful emotions. Our mission is to bring healing to those impacted by a traumatic life event. Whether you are a victim of rape, domestic violence, child abuse, experiencing significant or terminal illness, have lost a loved one, or are struggling with a painful past. Call our office today to speak with a counselor and learn about the many programs we may be able to offer you. At Hope Counseling, if transportation is a barrier, we will come to you. Be encouraged and know, help is only a phone call away. Call the Las Vegas office at 702-437-4673.
And welcome back, Southern Nevada. We were just talking about the power of the spoken word and how our words can either bring life or bring
Yes,
death.
that's right.
And so I know, Antoinette, you also had spoke about when Vance, your baby, you know, 20 some. How old did you say he was?
25 years
He's
old.
25.
Yes.
OMG. About 25 years ago, when he was just a tiny baby,
Right.
that he had an illness that was predicted that he would not make it by medical professionals.
That's right.
And sometimes what happens is that when people get caught up on what doctors have to say,
Yes.
and when they hear that still voice, they don't know where that's coming from. Some folks may actually think that that's just a higher place of consciousness and not necessarily the voice of God. And so when you received that, you received the voice in total, complete faith
Yes.
that this is God speaking to me. And so when you spoke that out, you spoke your faith. And God blessed you for that.
Yes.
And your son now is 25, which is
Yes.
amazing. And, I too have a similar experience where I had been told that I couldn't have children. And my daughter is amazing. But they had said, nope, you're not going to be able to ever have a child. And that didn't, God said different. I
Right.
got a word on a prayer walk that when you doubt, remember Luke 1:43. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not versed in Scripture in the way that you are. I mean, I've kind of picked up the Bible here and there.
Yes.
I have a strong faith in God, but as you know, not everybody who believes in God necessarily knows the
Right.
word cover to cover. Well, I'm
Yes.
one of those people, Antoinette,
Okay. Yes.
that doesn't know the word cover to cover. So when I got this word, I was kind of like, am I crazy? What's happening to me? How is it that I heard this voice? And so, and I was excited at the same time. So I went,
Right.
opened up the Bible, and I was like, blessed are you among women, and blessed is the child you will bear. So 2 months after I was told by 2 different doctors that I could not have children, God spoke differently, and I hung on to that
Yes.
with faith like you would not believe that someday I am going to have a child.
Yes.
And I did.
Yes.
And it was a difficult pregnancy, but I didn't speak the words that the doctor spoke.
Right.
I rebuked those words.
Right.
And I spoke what God spoke to me. And I will tell you, people thought that I was crazy. I was running around, I'm going to have a baby. And they were like, she's going to have her heart broke.
Right.
She's going to have her heart broke. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going to have my heart broke. Because I know what was spoken to me. And I think that when you can say that you know that you know that you know, you know that that's God.
Yes.
And God doesn't just speak to me in my thought life. He speaks to you. He
Yes.
speaks to his people.
That's right.
And sometimes he will speak to his people through others.
Right.
Right?
Yes, he will.
And so I think that it's amazing.
Yes.
And as we were talking about starting the show about balance and the power of the spoken word.
Yes.
And last week we were talking about balance.
Yes.
And so when we parted from the show last time, I went home and I was thinking about balance in my own life.
Yes.
And what came to me was a scale. You know those
Okay.
scales? They're kind of like not the kind that you weigh yourself on. I don't like to get on that one, okay? But the kind of scale, if you guys can visualize this, it's the kind that has the little strings that hang down, and there's a little plate over here and a plate over here, and it balances like this, right?
Right.
So in thinking of the scales that balance,
Uh-huh.
I was thinking about how we put so much energy in things over here, right?
Right.
And not maybe as much energy over here. That remember we were
Yes.
talking about overcompensation and undercompensation,
right.
and that sometimes we overcompensate in our lives, and that when we have that imbalance, it creates distress. We become overwhelmed. Then that penetrates our thought life. Do you see how this is intertwined?
Yes,
Then we
yes.
start to speak
Speak, right.
the negative that comes in our mind.
Right.
But if we could bring ourselves back to a place of balance, then we can keep our perspective. It's when we're off balance that you'll see the balance. See, you can't, it interferes with my vision, with my ability to be able to see in clarity.
Yes.
And so, what we have to be able to do at home, people, is to be able to shift that scale up, right? So, that it's equally weighted.
Yes.
And when we start giving more time, you know, if you're married and you have children and you're working, it's hard.
Right.
It's very, very difficult, you know. And add going to school, I've got that on my scale too,
Right.
and it becomes really difficult. Then you're kind of going like this, and we have to be able to have supports.
Right.
And not everybody has support, Antoinette.
Right. Kathy.
They don't know where to go.
Yes.
And, you know, and at Hope Counseling Services, our team of professionals, as you know, they work with folks in the community on bringing balance
Right.
and helping them to understand the power of their words, and not from a biblical base like we've been talking about on the show today. We've been talking
Right.
about faith and the
Right.
power of the spoken word. But when you come into a counseling arena, you know, we're not sitting there drilling you about, well, what is your faith? You know,
Right.
because when you come in, just as God accepts you as you are,
Right.
so do we as professionals.
Right.
So you as an ordained minister and
Yes.
myself as a, you know, a clinical social worker, we have
Yes.
balance.
That's right.
Right? What you're able to give to the community and to the
Yes.
people around faith
Yes.
and strength, and then the counseling part of it that comes in and
Yes.
complements that, so that we
Yes.
can help together bring balance to the
Exactly.
people in our community.
That's very important that you said that, because that's a component that's missing, even in the Christian community or
Yes.
in the body of Christ, because God is concerned about every aspect of our life: the spiritual, the emotional, the mental state.
Yes.
Okay.
He is.
Yes. Yes.
He
And
is.
so, it's okay to get help.
Yes, it is.
It's okay to look for assistance at a mental health agency. Okay?
Absolutely.
Yes, I hear all the time. Well, I don't have to do that because I'm a Christian, I'm saved. Yes, you are a Christian and you are saved. But God also has anointed counselors
Yes,
to
he has.
bring, there's things that go on in our life that's spiritual. Then there's another part, that mental things, mental disorders. We have families in the church, in the Christian community. We know something is wrong with our loved ones.
Right, exactly.
And we go to the altar Sunday after Sunday. And they pray and they get hands laid on them. And that's good. But once it gets beyond what the pastor or whoever is praying for you know, past that part, they need to know when it's time to seek out other help
Right.
and get help for the mental part.
And that's that, again, it comes back
that
to
balance.
that balance.
That's right.
And so many times what ends up happening, you know, what I see is that when, and I've been doing this for 20 years, Antoinette, and what I've observed is that most people, 99% of all people, ourselves included, the scales get tipped.
That's right.
And then we have to come in and to gain some support.
Yes.
And some people find that support and strength in the church.
Right.
They find it through their best friend. They find it through meditation practices,
Right.
and or in a counseling agency, such as what we were talking about.
Right.
And what in my studies, as you know, I'm working on getting my PhD in international psychology, and we're actually talking about right now about meditative practices and how Western psychology versus the psychologies around the globe, that there's a disconnect between the psychologies. And it's fascinating to me as I'm being stretched. And, one of the things that I would want to say to our community, because Antoinette, we live in a diverse community. Not everybody out there is a Christian, okay? But, and you and I, we may walk strongly in our Christian faith, but we have a lot of people at home who don't have faith, or who they may be Islamic, they may be Jewish, they may be Buddhist, they may have another faith. And when they come into a counseling environment, that faith is respected. We don't impose or try to convert, if you will, because you meet everybody where they're at, regardless of what faith is. And when we look at balance, if your faith, whatever your personal faith is, if it's off balance, Okay, no matter what denomination you may come
Right.
from, even in the Christian walk, you've got different denominations.
Right.
If your faith is off balance, your finances are off balance, your marriage is off balance, your ability to parent effectively because the kids are driving you crazy is off balance. Okay, that causes strife.
Right.
And I think that what our roles are is to be able to help our community, each person come back to a place of having some equilibrium, you know, some type of balance of, but what are the tools to help you to do that? And you know what? It's going to look different, Antoinette,
Yes,
for
it will.
each and every individual
Yes, it
because
will.
culturally we're different.
Right.
You know,
right.
and so I think that we just got to continue to be able to speak out to our community to say that there is help. You know,
Yes,
I
there
went to
is.
church and there was this woman from, she's a Christian artist, and she had come in and she was praising and worshiping, and one of the fellas had said, help is on the way. And they were like, help is on the way, Las Vegas, help is on the way. And I'm like, yes. And I just felt like, there's this calling. There are people in our community who are desperate.
Yes.
They're desperate for help.
Yes, they are.
So in this final minute of the show, Antoinette, if you could share a word of encouragement to our viewers, that would be beautiful.
Yes, yes. And my word of encouragement to you is that the Lord loves you no matter what your belief is. He is the God of the universe. He loves you with an everlasting love. And all you have to do is call out to Him, and He will hear you. And not only will He hear, Catherine, but He will answer you
That's right.
right where you are. He will answer you. So I would like to just say, be encouraged. Get up in the mornings. Look to the hills for whence cometh your help, and your help is in the Lord. Just say, I need help, and you will find help. God bless you.
Thank you, Antoinette, for joining us today. We are so blessed to have you here. And thank you, Southern Nevada. Have a fabulous day.